Hi everyone, and welcome to this Business Forum Group webinar, The Dangerous Comfort of AI. My name is Simeon and I'm happy to be your webinar host today. We are living in a time where AI is everywhere. Every boardroom, every strategy deck, almost every weekly meeting. But today we are not here to add to the noise. We are here to ask the harder question. And we'll try to dive deeper into the opportunities and especially the challenges with AI. Are we truly becoming more innovative or just faster on doing things? That's what we're going to find out today. But first, let's have a look at today's agenda. We are kicking off the session with Shawn Kanungo, CEO and President of Kongsberg Digital. He will share his perspective on what it actually means to implement AI in a complex, high-stake industry and what it actually looks like in a high-performing company. Then we will move forward to our main session with an in-depth conversation with our Oslo Business Forum and Nordic Business Forum keynote speaker, Shawn Kanungo. Shawn is a globally recognized innovation strategist, best-selling author of The Bold Ones, and one of the most honest voices out there on what AI is actually doing on the way we work, we lead, and think. Today, he's diving into the differences between efficiency and innovation and how we actually should approach these new tools we now have in our hands. Today's learning. At the end of today, we'll have been given tools and ideas on three things, we hope. First, why speed and automation can create a false sense of progress. Secondly, what are actually the early signs that AI is degrading, not improving decision quality in your organization? And last, what leaders are overlooking in the race to adapt to AI. And now we are getting started with Shawn Kanungo, CEO and President of Kongsberg Digital. Kongsberg Digital provides software and advanced digital solutions for industries, including maritime, oil and gas, renewables, and power supply. Kongsberg Digital has a high focus on industrial AI and specialized agents for heavy asset industries. Shawn is a person who brings a grounded perspective on implementing AI responsibly in complex real-world environments. And today we're going to hear his reflection. Please welcome Shawn Kanungo. Shawn, welcome.
Thanks for having me
on.
Nice
to have you here. What's on top of market today?
Top of market. I think you opened up very well. Every CEO, manager, or leader that I'm currently talking to pretty much have two questions. One is, how do you scale AI faster? And two, how do we scale it safely? And to be honest, there's no clean or clear answer for your specific organization, but there is a pragmatic way or place to start. And that is, first of all, understanding one thing about AI, and in particular, this is for heavy asset industries that I work towards, and that is, you don't put intelligence on top of chaos. Now, I've spent most of my career working in industries that keep the lights on, everything from oil and gas, process manufacturing, and these are large, complex, safety-critical facilities that we're operating, where a bad decision doesn't just mean a bad quarter, it means something much more significant. So when we're talking about scaling safely AI across these organizations, it really comes back to the basics. First of all, let's be very sharp on the business case. We're back to this. And what do I mean by that? Because the cost of AI can grow quite significantly. So let's make sure we're applying AI to a business case that's hard, that's challenging. Or you're taking out a large, unproductive layer in your organization, which actually starts to touch the bottom line. So start there. Secondly, you do need to have a curious leadership organization, right? This is really, really important for us to be able to start adopting AI at the scale that we're going to require. We need to understand what data you're working with, because the information that AI needs is basically fed up through the data that's available. And then finally, what we have to look at, and this is often overlooked, since we're talking about rewiring organizations or changing the way people's work, do we actually understand how your organization performs their jobs or performs the jobs that are tasks that are associated with those jobs? And in many cases, we begin to understand when we start to dig in that that's not the case. So it's a two-prong approach when I'm talking to these people. First of all, have we got the technology? And without a doubt, we have the technology. I'm not concerned about that. It's moving so fast. You know, if we haven't got it today, we'll have it in the next 6 to 12 months. And finally, have we got the leaders in place with the right mindsets to implement this? That's really what's top of the market right now, Simeon.
Shane, you work in industries where the stakes are completely different, right? Energy, oil and gas, power utilities is actually moving fast with AI, the wrong instinct for these industries, especially when you know that wrong decisions can have fatal consequences.
Yeah. No, I think we have to move fast. You know, I think we should be moving even faster, to be honest. But I think we need to move fast within certain guardrails. That's really important for these industries. So, for example, and what I mean by that is, if you think about human in the loop and removing humans from the loop because some agent is going to handle that task or job now. For now, we need to continue to have a human in the loop. We have got, in some areas, a human on top of the loop where they're managing human workers and we're managing agents. But we have to be very careful about what those agents are prescribing. So if they're prescribing a certain action, we should be setting up a harness or a guardrail that grounds that in physical reality. And this is something I think Jensen Huang got really right, the CEO of NVIDIA, where he said the next wave of AI is going to be AI that understands the physical world. So grounding AI, prescribes AI outputs in physics, very, very important for us to be able to move fast. NVIDIA are doing some amazing stuff in that space actually today. Secondly, the best leaders in my organization are the curious ones. And I think Shawn Kanungo has this book, The Bold Ones. I think this is an amazing book. I think, the learnings in that about being brave, being innovative, being creative, I think that's something we need to encourage in all of our leaders. So leaders who actually understand AI, because you can't be a leader telling your organization to use AI. That doesn't work. Most of the organizations actually looking for guidance here, looking for leadership. If they haven't got an instinct around this, if they haven't got an intuition around this, if they haven't been using it themselves, they're not going to be the best leaders for what we need in the future. So they need to understand, okay, this is how we can use AI creatively. They have all the domain knowledge. They understand the problem better than the AI does. They need to creatively implement it, shift the organization or the workforce to new areas where AI can be replacing some of those tasks, and implement it in a safe way and guide the organization in a safe way as well.
Shane, in your introduction, you talked about putting intelligence on top of chaos, right? What does the chaos actually looks like in these organizations? Because you have real access, you work with those clients trying to implement that. What are leaders walking into when they lift the hood?
When they lift the hood, yeah. I think anyone that's associated with an AI project, they get super excited, think, oh, AI, this is going to be a super project, and they get very quickly disappointed about the unglamorous manual work that's actually required for AI to scale and to scale safely. So when I talk about putting intelligence on top of chaos, if you think about how your organization works, right, just really day-to-day life, where is the knowledge, the institutional knowledge reside that you're meant to be putting AI on top of? It's in your head, it's in my head, it's in your colleagues' heads, and that's not good. So AI doesn't have an instinct. It doesn't and can't reason across a conversation that is not recorded. So for a software company like ourselves, this information could be in a 5-year-old Slack thread, it could be in an engineer's head, it could be in a support ticket somewhere. So you have to start with ingesting all of this data that's relevant, putting in not just the operational data, but the data that you might have in a OneNote somewhere, something tagged at the bottom of a slide deck. We need to get better documenting information. So I tell now all my leaders that we need to start writing stuff down in the organization, not just sharing with ourselves in a meeting, recording those meetings, so we actually have a data repository for the AI to sit on top of. So there's a lot of unglamorous work, and talking about chaos is starting there. Document how we work, ingest the operational data, the business processes, the knowledge that's trapped in hard to access areas into a technology platform. That's the start point. You need that. Then what you can do is you start to expose that information to AI and people, and they can start to build this knowledge substrate of your organization with the help of AI. So for example, a very basic challenge that we have. We're using AI now. We've deployed 15 agents into our engineering department, shipping and building software. And one of the things developers hate to do is write documentation. They hate it, right? So now we have an agent that sits with them and grooms through their code and actually spits out in a human format a description of what that code is. It's documenting. And then the developer can go in and go, yeah, tune it a little bit. So they're actually having AI to create the data that they're going to use afterwards. So it's really practical stuff there that you can use. And that's what I mean by chaos. Start with the basics.
Shane, a practical question. Let's say in this webinar now is an industry leader, right? And this company has high ambition. They have starting with piloting. Yeah. But nothing is scaling, right? What is the one thing they're probably not doing that they should be doing? What advice can you give here?
I think we touched on quite a lot of it actually in our discussion, but trust. If you're talking about an industrial side of things, there was a McKinsey report, it's probably out of date now, I think it was in 25, where it said that 42% of AI projects that fail, they fail due to lack of explainability. A follow-up of that was only 17% of the organizations are actually doing anything about that. So if you think about that, that means you build a wonderful pilot, an AI pilot, you give it to people, you set it up in a nice way and you test all the things within a nice operating envelope, and then you give it to an organization where chaos reigns, bash test basically, pressure test, and then someone comes, oh, it sped up something that I know is wrong. They're going to lose trust immediately. So trust, you need to work with the organization on building trust. And as I talked about physical AI for our industry, but also having leaders that can build trust with this. Second is, of course, curious leadership. The best leaders in my organization are the curious ones. They're the ones using AI, right? And leading their teams through with it. And then there's organizational courage in a way, right? This is unglamorous work, as I said, and you need to push through this barrier, this manual work, which you're thinking, this doesn't feel like an AI project, but it is. It's so foundational to any AI project. So pushing through that barrier, because you will be a better person, a better team, a better organization once you get through that. And that takes a lot of resilience from an organization to be able to achieve it. So, make the knowledge visible in your organization, build the trust, and bring the people along with you. That's what I think you should be doing.
Shane, that was actually what we needed to kick off this nice webinar. Thank you so much.
No, great to have me on.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
And now we're looking forward to our main session with Shawn Kanungo. Shawn Kanungo is an AI authority, and he is also the author of the book, The Bold Ones. And Shawn Kanungo will be joining us at Oslo Business Forum and Nordic Business Forum this fall. And now I'm very happy to welcome Shawn Kanungo. Hi, and welcome. How are you doing, Shawn?
Hey, it's so great seeing you. I'm just excited to be on. I can't wait to meet everybody in person, later in September. But I'm glad that we could have this conversation and just dive into the topic of our AI and more.
Exactly, Shawn. You must be a very busy speaker those days, right? With that technology wave that's going over of us. And we just dive into the first question we have, Shawn. When you look at how companies are adapting to AI today, and that's a bit of a provoking question, what's the single thing that worries you the most if you look how companies are adapting AI today?
Yeah. Well, I think number one, I think people are doing it way too politely. They're doing it way too slowly, in my opinion. To me, this is the greatest technology that we've ever seen of our lifetime. And to do this politely, to do this slowly, is a crime, in my opinion. We need to be working and very quickly around how do we start adopting these within our organization? How do we adopt this technology within our organization? But most importantly, how do we reimagine how we do things? To me, this is not just it's not just a productivity tool. It's really a way of fundamentally taking a look at our roles in different ways, our organizations in different ways. And it requires us to have a completely different mindset and skill set. And so, to me, I think most organizations are doing this way too politely, and we should be doing this fast and furiously, and really trying to drive as much value and impact out of AI within our organizations today.
The webinar title is The Dangerous Comfort of AI. And I think you went already a bit in that direction. But isn't being productive and feeling comfortable, isn't that a good feeling?
Listen, I agree. Listen, I love cake too. I love being comfortable. I love having a nice cake. It's a nice warm blanket. The reality is that, being comfortable is the most dangerous spot to be today. And to me, what we need to do is push our people, push our existing organizations to think differently. What this technology is forcing us to do, it's forcing us to reevaluate how do we operate, what's actually important within our organizations, what is our value proposition, and to me, the best thing that we can do is actually get uncomfortable. And that starts with asking difficult questions. And the most difficult question is the work that I'm doing today still valuable? Is the process that we are running to get to a particular point still valuable? And so I think we should be all evaluating every single thing that we do. And unfortunately, that makes us uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. A question about value creation, I think you mentioned, is very important. And what do you think when leaders say we need an AI strategy, right? What do they often get wrong here from your point of view?
Well, it's really interesting. I have had the opportunity of being part of many digital transformations throughout my entire career, which is essentially an organization implementing this big piece of software, and they want to put it into their organization. They want to install this big ship within their organization. And the way that it always works, it's always a top-down method. They say, this is a Oracle, SAP, Workday, ServiceNow. We're going to implement this thing in, and I see the same thing happening with AI. An organization will say, hey, we're gonna get Microsoft Copilot. We're gonna get all these licenses when it comes to AI. Go and use this. And what I've seen time and time again when it comes to digital transformation, in the traditional sense, when you've done this from a software perspective, that has always, most of those transformations go wrong because you're telling someone to implement something that they have no idea how to use this thing. They have no idea how to extract value out of this thing. And that's why most digital transformations fail. And I see the same thing happening today, is that they're trying to apply the same approach. This is different than every single piece of software that we have seen. This is not a tool. This is not a piece of software. It's like having the most capable, the most intelligent teammate beside you. And instead of just adopting it right away and telling people to use it, we have to figure out what it can do. We have to push the limits. We have to experiment with it. We have to figure out how this is going to reimagine our work. And so I think the mindset of how we implement this technology is different from other software implementations, and it requires just a different skill set of not only experimentation, but also around taking a look at your existing processes. And the way that you run a process today from 0 to 100, you might not need steps 40 to 70 because of AI. And that's really important, because I think what AI is helping us do is saying, how do we start from 0 today, looking at all our processes so that we can rebuild it from there?
Mm-hmm. I think we will also talk later about speed and innovation, right? That basically maybe companies take speed as being very efficient now as part of innovation. Is there a pattern you see that, okay, if we use now the efficiency tools, is that actually being innovative by using tools right and correct and just being more efficient?
Yeah.
Do you see companies that really mistake this speed for innovation, actually? That we basically try to just run faster?
So my belief is that efficiency and speed is very different than innovation. So efficiency is really about optimizing the past. You're using past data. You are optimizing something that you're already doing. I'm writing faster emails. I'm creating faster decks. I am doing these claims in a faster way. What innovation is all about, it's actually thinking differently. It's about looking into the future and saying, what are things that we have never done before that now we can do today? And so innovation is not about optimizing what worked in the past. It's about creating a new way of doing things. Let me give you a hypothetical situation. What if the Wright brothers, the brothers that invented flight, what if they were given ChatGPT or any of these generative AI tools? What would they have done? Well, if they would have typed into ChatGPT, hey, how do we create flight? Or is flight possible? What these tools would have told them in the late 1800s, they would have said that it is fundamentally impossible for flight to happen because it just defies all the evidence and all the research that we have up until the 1800s. And I don't know what the Wright brothers would have done. Maybe they would have continued being bicycle mechanics. But of course, they defied conventional wisdom. They innovated. They pushed against the status quo, and they reinvented a new form of travel. They changed the world, and that's not about optimizing the past and optimizing past research and evidence. That's fundamentally creating the future. That's going against the status quo and saying, I don't know what the data is telling me, but I'm going to try and figure it out. I'm going to go through this path of uncertainty, through this path in the darkness, and see if we can create value in new ways. And that's what great innovators do. They create the future.
Mm. At the end of 2022, start of 2023, right? You published your book, The Bold Ones, talking about innovation and disruption. That was before the generative AI, and now the AI tools come in. Would you see that the game has changed, or would you say the same patterns apply to be innovative now, together with the tool we have never before? Or other question, shorter question, would you write your book differently today?
Absolutely not. I think my book, The Bold Ones, is even more relevant in this age today, which is this idea that the most important skill set is, I would say that the most dangerous person in the room is the person who is most afraid yet bold enough to move forward. And I think what AI it gives us this false confidence. It gives us this idea that this certainty. It gives us this idea that what's in front of us is right. And what we have seen time and time again throughout human history is that the bold ones, they move forward even though they're scared. And unfortunately, AI is great. I mean, it's fantastic. It creates great ideas and great designs and great code, and it helps us move faster, but it's not going to create fundamentally new things, right? It's not going to create new industries and new companies. And what my book highlights is that every single disruptor throughout human history, they always start out as a joke. I would say that disruption always starts as a joke. It starts out as a joke until the joke is really on us. And if you actually look throughout human history, you think about the internet. We all said, when the internet started, we said, I don't want to put my banking information online. And then everybody did. When Uber started, we said, I don't want to get into the backseat of this guy's car. What if the guy's what if he's a serial killer? And now we jump into cars with serial killers every single day. Disruption always looks like a joke until the joke is really on us. And that's why it's important not to disregard the disruptive ideas or disruptive thinkers or disruptors, because they're the ones that will change the world. And so my belief is that being bold, being innovative, being disruptive is the most important thing that you can do. To be honest with you, knowledge is no longer power. I actually think that we don't need any more smart people. I think smart people are great, but I don't need another smart person. I have 4 in my pocket: Grok, Gemini, ChatGPT, and Claude, and more to come. I don't need more smart people. What I need is people that are hungry, people that can innovate, people that are bold. To me, this is power. And that's why I think that the bold ones is even more valuable in this world.
I hope I can keep my smart colleagues in the business forum group, Shawn.
I know this is. Hey, I want to ask you this question because this is this is a provocative statement that knowledge is no longer power, because now we have the smartest entity in our pocket. So it's funny because you put on this incredible event and you bring forget the speakers, but you bring some of the smartest people in the audience from all these different organizations. I would love to ask you, what are your thoughts on this idea of knowledge no longer being power today?
Oh, that's a great question. But I think we still need smart people to get to the great ideas as a group together, right? So I understand that there are tools we can use now to get us to a smarter point. But I think the exchange between humans, and that's why we still believe in the meeting place, right? As a one-to-one place to meet. I think conference actually will get even more important to exchange ideas, to bring people together, and actually to share stories, right? Because that's something that the machine never can reply. But I just wanted to jump on. You said talking about decision quality will degrade with AI. So the decision quality will degrade with AI. Can you walk me through that? What actually happens? What do you mean by decision quality will degrade with AI tools? Is it because we just blindly believe the tools without being critical minded behind?
Yeah, there's so many different elements to this. Number one is that we will assume that the AI is right. Because listen, it has been trained on every single piece of knowledge that we've ever created throughout human history. And so we're going to assume that it is right. And I think part of decision-making isn't just about optimizing the past and understanding what happened in the past, but it's making a gut decision around where the future is going to go. And it's making a gut decision around how the world is going to change. And unfortunately, no AI on the planet is going to be able to predict what the future is really going to look like. That's number one. Number two is that, unfortunately, because of AI, you don't wrestle with a particular problem. You don't wrestle with a particular issue because the answer just comes up at your fingertips. And I think about my kids in this way. I got three kids. I got a 9-year-old, I got a 7-year-old, and I got a 3-year-old. And to me, I want them to struggle with a problem. I want them to struggle with a challenge, because that's how you learn, in the best way possible. It's when you go through that difficult period of trying to understand a particular issue and getting deep into it. And so I think part of decision making is understanding the problem deeply. And the more that you understand the problem deeply, you can come up with better innovations. I would say that the world is based on secrets, and secrets are simply about unlocking opportunities in new ways. And the deeper that you understand a particular secret, the deeper that you understand a particular industry, the better insights that you're going to unlock from that. And so what AI is great at is it's great at sort of finding those top level issues, but it will never go down to the juiciest, deepest problems at the end of the day. And so that's how you find the best opportunities. And so I think that's why decision making will degrade with AI, is that we'll just rely on it. We'll just put it into one of these generative AI tools and we'll go off and make a decision. But that's not how the world works. And so that's one of my fears, not only for business leaders, but also for my children as well.
Yeah, I think interesting point, Shawn. I think now at least we always had to look for the answer, and the way to the answer was actually the learning period, right? But right now we basically have all the answers, and I think that's a discussion we need to go ahead in our society there. Well, now I would like to jump more about what's actually. Sorry, yes.
Oh, I was gonna say, the world has become so easy in a way, right? We have made everything into a button. You tap a button and you get food delivered to your door. You don't have to interact with the person that made the food or deliver the food. You tap a button, you get boxes thrown at your door all day long. You don't have to interact with the person that got you that box. I mean, we get boxes thrown at our house today. We don't even know what we ordered at the end of the day. We are trying to turn everything into its most efficient form. And when you do that, you suck out the meat and the context and the trust at the end of the day. And I think that's not a good thing, because it doesn't force us to wrestle, and it's interesting because, you know, I'm a hypocrite too. Like I tap a button, I go to Google Maps and I tell Google Maps, tell me to get to this location. I go to Netflix and I just tell me what the top 10 list is. I go to Spotify and it tells me what the top 100 songs that I should listen to. We lose that discovery, we lose that exploration, and I'm guilty of it as well. And so I think part of, you know, just being a human and being a father as well, it's like, how do we balance this tension? The fact that this is great that we can get something delivered to our door and we don't have to explore, but, you know, part of the wonder of life is getting lost. And I think that's what I'm afraid of, is that we forget how to get lost. And to create innovative solutions, you have to get lost and then find your way back. That's important.
That definitely will be very important, Shawn. Now we try to, you said it's hard to predict, but I will give you this question now. Which parts of business do you think AI will genuinely reshape? Now, looking to the next 3 to 6 months, Shawn. I know it's hard to say, but you're very on that topic. You're traveling around, you're talking to a lot of companies, you're speaking to a lot of people. What do you think will business reshape generally the next 3 to 6 months?
Yeah, in the next 3 to 6 months, my belief is that when you look at knowledge work and you look at whether it's with software engineering and coding, you know, financial analysis, you know, legal, anything that is pure play digital work, where you have somebody working in an office on their laptop, is going to get drastically impacted by AI. And my belief is that the individuals that are in a highly digital, informational based job, this is going to be a tsunami that's coming to you. Like it is. I don't think that people are prepared for what's coming and how good this technology is getting, whether it's coding or design or, you know, financial analysis. It's getting really, really, really good. And I think we need to be asking ourselves, I think this is less about jobs and it's more about our identity, because, you know, every single day we've gone to work and we've developed this sense of this ego, this knowledge, this certification. We've gone up this incredible mountain, and we need to ask ourselves, is the work that we still do still valuable? And how do we create more value for organizations when the AI can do it in some ways a lot better? Let's be honest, AI can do a 24/7 audit or a 24/7 reconciliations of invoices and receipts. And that's incredible because no human could ever do that. And so we need to think about, you know, where we create value in the world in new ways. And I think those are some of the places that are going to be the most impacted by AI in the next 3 to 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Talking about culture, Shawn, how do you create in a company a culture that really experiments with AI quickly, but still stays responsible, right? And still has the governance model back? I think that's the big trade-off, except, for example, bigger companies need to go. How can you be still innovative, experiment, but still playing by the books here?
Yeah.
Is there any concrete advice you can give? Or,
yeah, I think there's 3 ingredients to that. Number one, I think one of the ways of creating culture of innovation or experimentation is that you need to deeply care. Like you need to deeply care about the people around you. And the reason why that's so important is because when somebody makes a mistake or somebody creates you know, some sort of failure, people want to know that other people have their back within an organization. Incredibly important. Number one is to deeply care. Number two is that you need to embrace this willingness to fail. When somebody gets in most organizations, when you try something new and it doesn't work out, they get slapped on the hand and they don't try something again. And the best organizations, what they do is when somebody makes a mistake, they don't slap them on their hand. They say, hey, you took a shot. What did you learn? I want you to run it back again. Try it again and learn something new. That's a willingness to embrace failure. That's how you create a culture of experimentation within an organization. And the other thing is that, having some governance, having some guardrails around, what is acceptable in terms of experimentation within an organization is a good thing. And obviously security and privacy and confidentiality, those things are incredibly important. And so having the appropriate governance within an organization to ensure that people are experimenting and pushing the boundaries without compromising your existing customers or clients or people at your organization, I think that's a great way. So it's like, here's how we can go off and innovate, but we don't want to compromise the entire organization. I think that's how you do that. So deeply caring, a willingness to embrace failure, and having a good sort of governance and guardrails.
Now, in the long run, what do you think will basically then separate these companies that really create lasting value from AI from those that maybe see more the short-term effect or the efficiency part? What do you think is there a danger that we see a separation of companies, or some companies maybe totally get into the wrong direction?
It's interesting. My belief is that there's going to be two types of organizations that win in the future. There'll be organizations that are incredibly fast and frictionless and incredibly agentic, where you tap a button and you get something delivered to your door, like Amazon, Temu, McDonald's, Uber. Like, they're going to win because they're all about tapping a button. And then there's going to be a whole slew of companies that actually slow things down. It's about experience and moments. You go to a Four Seasons, it's an incredible experience. You go to Hermes, it's about craftsmanship. You go to the Genius Bar at Apple, it's a one-on-one interaction. But you don't want to be in the middle. The middle is what I call the black hole of mediocrity. And so I think as a company, we need to think about, okay, are we a button? Are we completely frictionless, or are we in the experience business? Is it about trust and relationships and holding someone's hand at the end of the day? And I think if you're in any organization, you should look at every process and say, how do we make something incredibly frictionless and seamless and efficient, or where do we actually slow things down? So it's about humanity and people, and again, making things that are incredibly human at the end of the day. Those are the only two processes that will win in the future. And the unfortunate part is that you have to be incredible at both. Like, you cannot have a mediocre customer experience. You cannot have a mediocre digital experience. Like, if you have a digital experience, you compete now against Tesla and Amazon and Uber. And in terms of experience, that's why, the Nordic and Oslo Business Forum is incredible, because it's all about having an incredible experience. It's about sharing best practices. It's inviting the best leaders on the planet to come to these events. And so those are the two things that will win in the future.
Now I give you a quote, Shawn, from Dario Amodei, CEO of Anthropic, right? He said some month ago, 50% of the jobs will disrupt in 2 to 3 years. Very short answer from you. Would you sign that quote?
Yeah.
50% of the jobs will disrupt in 2 to 5 years.
God bless Dario, because he is the greatest marketer of all time. He's really good at scaring everyone. And listen, as a massive Claude user, they have fundamentally innovated and pushed this revolution forward. The reality is that fear sells, right? And he stated this many times that this is going to happen. I think what is fundamentally going to happen is that there are every job is going to get reinvented and reimagined because of this technology. To be honest with you, we already have super intelligence. these large language models are already smarter than most people on the planet. Yet we would have seen this massive disruption in terms of jobs today. The reality is that every job is going to change. It's going to reimagine because of this technology, and we're going to create new jobs. We're going to create new industries because of this. And so I'm actually way more optimistic, because I think what we have seen throughout human history is that technology creates new things. And the reason why it's so tough to hear that is because we can't imagine what industries are going to be created. We can't imagine new things because it hasn't been created yet. But it happens time and time again, and we always figure it out. And so I agree with him that there's going to be massive disruption, but my belief is that it's going to be around just this reimagining of work, and new industries will be created. So I'm excited about what the future is going to be, because here's the punchline. I think the way that we look at AI today is simply about productivity and efficiency. And the way that we should be thinking about AI is, what more can we do? What more can we create when we have the greatest technology in human history at our fingertips? And so, it's the question I always give to leaders is like, if I gave you 100 MBAs from Harvard right now, what would you do with them? And the reality is that if anybody was given 100 MBAs from Harvard right now, they really would not know what to do with them, because we look at work through this human lens. We have not been wired to look at work through this lens of, now that we have 100 AI agents that can get stuff done, what do? We've never been faced with this problem. And it's going to require us a new mindset, an exponential mindset of how we look at the world. And so I'm excited that we're going to start to change leaders and organizations to think more exponentially now that we have this technology at our fingertips. So I'm way more optimistic.
I very much like the picture with the 100 MBA students, Shawn.
Yeah.
Really,
well, listen, I'm going to ask you this question. If I gave you 100 MBAs right now, what would you do with them?
No, as I said, I think it's a really great question, because often, as of now, what happens, we're really talking about efficiency, right? How can I be faster and do something? But there's so much potential in there, which I would like giving the right questions in, right? So that's really very interesting. I see we already talk about 30 minutes, and that's great. And that's great. We will have you as a speaker. I will follow up with two last questions, Shawn, before we finish this nice conversation. Talking about skills, and now we try to be very practical. What skills actually should leaders and teams build right now, today? You have talked about some of it, but could you summarize some points for our participants? Yeah. What skills should leaders and teams basically build on today?
So to me, the number one skill of the 21st century is what I call high agency. A high agency person is someone that is an architect of their own outcomes. A high agency person is someone that doesn't ask for permission, they get stuff done. Most importantly, a high agency person is someone that can take those 100 MBAs, take those AI agents, and orchestrate all of them across their jobs. To me, that is the person that is the most relevant in the future. So it's the problem solver. It's the person that is creative, that's imaginative, that can understand how to use these particular tools. So to me, that is the number one skill, is this idea of high agency. And maybe that looks like a problem solver, but at the end of the day, it's like somebody that can take some of these AI skills and say, hey, how do we go off and just get stuff done within our organization? You can't wait anymore. I don't want somebody that can wait. I don't need the smartest person in the room. I don't need someone to be the ultimate data analysis person that can take all the data. I need someone that can action and make things happen. To me, that's the most dangerous person in the room.
And that brings me to my last question. You can build up that answer you already gave now, but very concrete, Shawn. If you were advising a leadership team tomorrow morning, what would be a leadership team, right? What would be the first three things you would tell them to do? Now, thinking about AI?
Yeah, I love that question. The first thing that I would do is to take one process within your business today and say, how do we start from zero using all these technologies today? When you start from zero with a particular process, you might not get a 10% improvement, but you might get a 10x improvement. And when you start from zero, you have to ask yourself 3 questions. What would you eliminate? What would you automate? And what requires more humanity? Like, where do you actually have to slow things down? And when you ask yourself those 3 questions, what you'll end up seeing is that you might not get a 10% improvement, but you might get a 10x improvement. So let me give an example of this using these 3 questions. A CEO of a marketing company came up to me a number of months ago and said, your conversation on starting from zero, how would I actually do this in a marketing company? I said, the old way of doing a marketing campaign for a client would be you would strategize, you get your teams together, you do pre-scripting, you get your teams together, you do pre-production, you get your teams together, you do production, get your teams together, you do post-production, get your teams together, and then you'd figure out what you put out in the world. In an agentic world, in an AI world, what you would do is you would actually start with getting everybody on your team to come up with what the final output is going to look like. You would prompt together the film, the asset, the mood board, the final deliverables. Not that it replaces the production, not that it replaces creativity, but when everyone can see the vision 10 times more clearly, they can execute 10 times better. And to me, that is fundamentally reimagining the entire process. And so I would challenge leaders today to say, how do we look at our processes and say, how do we start from zero and ask the question, what do we eliminate, what do we automate, and what requires more humanity? And my belief is that you're going to fundamentally change your business by doing that.
Shawn Kanungo, I think that was a very nice finish of this nice conversation. That was very practical, and that's what we want to do with the Business Forum Group, give practical tools to leaders. Shawn, thank you so much for joining today, and we are very much looking forward to welcoming you in the Nordics, Helsinki and Oslo this fall. Shawn Kanungo, thank you so much, and we see you this fall. Last word from you.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. My last word is that if you haven't registered yet, I know I want you to register. There's even online, wherever you're watching this around the world, you can also register online. So that's my last thing. And I can't wait to be there. We'll see everybody there in September.
See you in September. Thank you so much,
Yep.
Shawn Kanungo. And dear participants, this concludes today's webinar. Thank you so much to our partner to kick off the webinar. And as I said, Shawn Kanungo will be joining Oslo Business Forum and Nordic Business Forum. And now the last thing, please take a second to rate this webinar. We very much appreciate it. Please also follow our channels for more information, for more webinars to come up. And we hopefully see you at one of our conferences in Helsinki or in Oslo this fall. Thank you so much for registration for today, and have a good one. See you soon.
We live in a world of constant change, extreme volatility. I call it the never normal. Leaders have to spend time on today and tomorrow. But I really believe that you need to carve out at least 10% of your time on what I call the day after tomorrow. Because in a world that is changing so quickly, that is no longer a luxury, but a must.
Turning, looking at me like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Everywhere I go, heads turning, looking at me like, whoa, whoa, like, whoa. Everywhere I go, heads turning, looking at me like, whoa, whoa. Everywhere I go, heads turning, looking at me like,
And I love the theme of this conference, which is why I agreed to come. If you're not changing, then are you doing your job?
whoa. Kinda feel like I could go 1, 2, 3, count 'em on your toes. Whoa. You can see I'm in my zone. Don't speak to me, don't even call my phone. Whoa. It's about that time when the lights go up, you know that's my sign. Whoa. And I gotta feel great, cause everywhere I go, heads turning, looking at me like, whoa. Looking at me like 1, 2, 3. Looking at me like, looking at me like, don't speak to me. Looking at me like, looking at me like the lights go up. Looking at me like, looking at me like, everywhere I go, heads turning, looking at me like.